It is on. Good evening and welcome to the Lower Makefield Township Park and Recreation Board meeting for November 12th, 2024. Our first agenda item is roll call. So on remote virtually, we have Kim Rock. Welcome, Kim. Here we have Mike Bundy, Rob Labar, Dennis Wysocki, and Michael Brody is in transit, and myself, Doug Kraus. Hang on. Let the record show Michael Brody is here virtually. And we also have Monica Tierney, our Park and Rec Director, in attendance. Next agenda item is approval of our meeting minutes from October 8th, 2024. Does anybody have any comments, changes to the October 8th meeting minutes? If none, we'll call a vote to approve the October 8th meeting minutes. Anybody want to make a motion?
So moved. So moved.
Moved by Dennis, second by Michael Brody. All in favor of approval of the October 8th meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All approved. Thank you. Liaisons, I see we have some folks here. Does anybody want to, from our sports leagues or other committees, want to come up and have anything to say tonight? None? Nothing?
Gordon's on the...
Gordon, do you have anything you want to add while you're on the line tonight? Unmute him. I'm not sure.
He can unmute himself.
All right. Give Gordon one more shot. Gordon, you have anything you want to add tonight? Oh. Hey, Gordon, you're unmuted. You can go ahead if you want.
Disney Plus, though?
I think that's a no.
Okay. Thank you, Gordon. All right, do we have any public comment before we get started? Anything? You can come up and state your name and address if it's not on any particular agenda item, but go ahead, we'll give you the opportunity to come forth first.
Thank you very much. My name is James Mead. I live at 1383 Chase Road. In Newtown, mailing address, but it's the Yardley Run development, part of Lower Makefield. I came mostly to comment a couple things about the Parks and Recreation's use of the pickleball stuff and what's available and what some things I thought of as I was talking with people around the area. One was that we have a number of tennis courts that are not always fully utilized, some adjacent to where pickleball courts exist today, which if at the very least would alleviate some of the backup on the pickleball courts if you could just mark them and use them similar to what you marked and did on the Revere courts. That would be very helpful. The Memorial Park courts would be the first example of that because you have pickleball courts. It's a low cost thing, tape and paper. You know, it's not hard. It would be useful. I know maybe it would get torn up, but I would think at least it would give us an opportunity to just free up some of that backlog. I know that I have trouble trying to get on to those courts with the group because people are signing up a week ahead of time and there's no more room. And with only 3 courts to play, there's people always standing around. If you had 2 additional courts, more people would be able to sign up and more people would play.
You're referring to Memorial Park. Is that
yes, I am. I also think that we have other tennis courts in the area, dual use. Let's make use of them. I mean, we see basketball courts being used for other things. Why not make the dual use? It should be a low cost effort to put the lines in the 3 stringers that you need to bring the net down in those places. So just a thought. I also wanted to comment a little bit about the cost. We had a brief discussion beforehand, but I joined Middletown for half the price. I could play on their brand new courts. They have 8 of them. And they use the same reservation systems that you use. It seems to me that if they can do it, why can't we? And so I just need you to think about, again, why are we charging so much when other townships around us are charging less and have better facilities in some sense? The 8 courts at firefighters are brand new, and they're really very, very nice. I don't know if you've been over there and looked at them or not, but they're really well done and really well done with lights as well. So it's really useful. You don't have lights again at the courts where we play. So just thoughts that, you know, in the long run, maybe lights, but let's not go there. But the Memorial Park, the reason for Memorial Park primarily is it's far away from houses. The least amount of noise interference with other people. When you get to Revere, you have houses on both sides, it backs up. The same with the Cardinal, there's other places nearby. So you have a really opportunity where you have the best space with cushions for the noise to be least troublesome to the rest of the township. Those are my thoughts.
Great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming up and speaking. No other public comment. Then Monica, I'm going to turn it over to you for the budget and fees discussion.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to try not to cough during this entire presentation. I have cough drop in, I'm ready to go. Today we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to kind of go over a similar presentation that I gave to the Board of Supervisors with a little bit more detail for the Park Board. So I just wanted to kind of go over this with you, and any questions you have along the way, just feel free to ask. So just always like to remind everyone how Parks and Recreation Department generates revenue. You know that our Parks Department is a little different as our Board of Supervisor. It has a higher expectation for revenue support through user fees. So the funding sources we have is alternative funding like user fees and sponsors. We also have special use tax millage that is allocated specifically to Parks and Recreation, which we have not increased except for one time in the 7 years I've been here, and it was for a specific project and reduced the following year. So it was a brief increase just to raise a specific amount. And then fee in lieu, which is from contractors on the outside who pay a certain portion. If they don't put in so much parkland, then they put a little portion into a fund that goes into a fee in lieu fund that we can use for capital type projects. And then of course we go for grants for capital projects. Just to kind of show you our makeup, the average for national is 25% of expenses are covered through user fees. Last year, we were challenged to try to raise our user fees to try to make up a percentage. So you'll see our combined budget covers 71% of all operational costs through user fees. Last year, that was 53%. For the pool, just to break it out, pool budget is covered 103%. And this is looking at only what happened this year. Now we had a little bit of debt in the pool the start of the year, which we still have to work to make up. This year, I budgeted to move some money from Park and Recreation over to capture that overage. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. And then in the Park and Rec budget, we cover 47% of our operational costs, which you'll see is nearly double what the national average is. So I'm going to go through kind of activity by activity to talk about how we make up the fees and cover our costs for each activity. I promise it will be brief, and unless you have lots of questions, and we'll go on. But our cost recovery for the community center is approximately 87%. Now, the reason I say approximately 87% because for summer camp, we make a little bit more of a surplus. So if we wanted to push in a little bit more from summer camp, we could, or if we wanted to push in a little bit more from programs, we could. I put $15,000 for each one of those things. We had about $10,000 in rentals and $11,800 from the seniors. So there's a little bit of flexibility there. And I'll talk a little bit more about programming a summer camp as we move along. Our expenses were $59,598 and revenue was $51,800. What I want to make note of is about 13%. I think millage is fair. as we run the whole entire Parks Department out of the community center. So everything we do, people come, it's where people buy tickets, people purchase programs, people come and ask us questions or tell us about what's going on or wrong in the parks or what we have to fix or anything like that. So I think 13% straight out of millage is just for general use is adequate. I don't necessarily feel 100% cost recovery. I would recommend per se. Anybody have any questions on the community center before we move ahead?
I know that you noted here that the expenses do not include Park and Rec staff.
It does not, no.
And on an apples to apples comparison, the national averages, do those include Park and Rec staff?
That does include every expense, yes.
We wouldn't look as good compared to the national if we included Park and Rec staff in our.
We do include Park and Rec staff. In that first number that I just showed you, this one, the staff is included.
Okay. So each one of these line items, like you're saying, where you exclude it.
Yeah, yes. So the cost of staff is not included in the community center calculation. That's just to operate the facility. So moving on to athletics and leagues, you'll see we have 163% cost recovery. Because of that, we're able to allocate more money towards maintenance. So next year, you'll see a big change in the budget when the draft budget comes out. So when the draft budget comes out, you'll recognize that we are going to be spending quite a significant more in field maintenance, overall contracted services. We contracted with an outside company to help us with this for next year. That's the way we're looking at it. Actually, we're able to get two services in at the end of this year to kind of prep for next year. The only problem was we had no rain. So we were a little limited in what we could do. So we're planning to move forward. Next year, you'll see that as more of a break even as we move forward. Any questions on athletics and leagues? Light recovery. This is a real estimate because I still am awaiting some more information to do final billings. We're estimating revenue of 80,000. Our expenses were 67,315. There's a lot of variability in this expense as we have old light fixtures. We're spending about $15,000 to $20,000, maybe even $25,000 a year in bulbs and ballast replacements just because of the age. So there's a lot of very expensive maintenance, and that requires some heavy equipment and heavy machinery. With time, hopefully we'll be able to move over to like an LED type service, and we'll have a lot less bulb and ballast annual, and we'll also have a lot less cost as far as our general electric bill. And we might even be able to look at reducing this cost to the leagues with time too.
Do our expenses include depreciation for the fixtures?
No, not depreciation for the fixtures. Just annual cost. Yep.
Where does the revenue come from?
The revenue comes from the light fee that we charge the athletic groups.
So just the athletic groups pay that?
Just the athletic groups pay that. Yeah, so the way we charge that, just so you know, with new lighting systems, there's timers and you can get a lot of information. I baseline it off of the reservations. So the reservations that the league make, and I do a sunset equation and by month, and that's how we charge that fee right now. With a new system down the line, we'd be able to get a better report on when the lights are actually used. So that means if they cancel or any of that stuff, it's very hard to track that for me. I have to just go with what the reservation says.
Do these expenses include the lights that are here at the tennis courts and the basketball court?
It includes the lights at Community Park with the softball field. The lights at Makefield Park are the primary lights.
The right here, right?
The field that's behind the pool, the softball field.
Not the tennis courts.
Not the tennis courts.
Okay. So where does that get? Where do those expenses hit? Are there
general funds?
But they're not part of Park.
I mean, Park and Rec fund, yeah, but they're not part of this light cost recovery equation.
Do we know how much those lights cost on an annual basis?
I'd have to pull that separately, and I can do that for you. I can send it to you. I focus on what the leagues are using and what the leagues are covering costs for. They're not out there on the tennis court, or they're not out there on the basketball court. So there's no way to capture that right now. As far as programs, this is that 70-30 split that we changed to last year. We have 143 cost recovery. Some of that I showed you earlier goes to the community center, but some of that also covers the support staff, like the program manager's salary, the front desk staff who are generally doing a lot of the registration stuff, and some of the maintenance staff that's doing the flipping for programming. So some of that goes towards those things. We're looking at diversifying programming next year. I talked to you a little bit about this last week, serving seniors, teens a little bit better, and promoting some inclusivity opportunities, which we're working through right now. Did anybody have any questions about that? I'm sorry, I didn't ask. Programming.
Did you have your hand up previously, or you had a question?
Yeah, you have to come to the mic.
You just come to the mic. Sorry.
Yes, you were talking about the tennis courts in the, I guess it's baseball court next to the pool. Are they mostly used by the people and families, or are they used for teams? The
tennis courts?
Yeah.
It's just open. Tennis and basketball is just open.
So that's general population of the
general
township.
Population, yep.
So that's pretty much the only place in the township where lights are on. If people in the township wanted to play tennis in the dark, they could play in the dark. But otherwise, if they want lights, that's the only place they're available, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So from a point of view of a resident, I think at least some place in the township available to residents having lights on is an important part of it. I don't know that you're going to be able to recover fees from the residents generally just popping in there to play. That's my question. So I understand why you don't include it in your normal light recovery fee, but I understand your question, which is somebody has to pay for it in the long run.
Yeah.
As a township resident, if it's part of my general fees, as part of my taxes, I could see the point of that, and I would certainly support that as well. So just FYI. Thank you.
So just to respond to that, general millage does cover that right now. The Park and Rec general millage covers that right now. For summer camp.
And just to be on the programs,
sorry.
There's no changes to your program fee structure, is that correct?
No, just keeping the split.
Okay.
Fees for summer camp. We did very well with summer camp. We expanded quite a lot. I'd love to keep that same number this year. So we are talking to the school district to see if we can make some expansion into the school. I'm not sure how that will go. So we're going to see if we can do that. If not, we're going to have to reduce the size of camp this year because we had far too many people at the community center site. So we're going to have to potentially dial it back a little bit next year. You'll see our cost recovery is about 149%. That surplus allocation goes to the program manager. Essentially, the program manager's position is completely covered by fees, user fees. Also helps support front desk and maintenance staff that help support those programs. It also covers some additional costs as allocated to the pool and to the community center usage, as I mentioned earlier. Fee structure recommendation next year, we're looking to simplify the way we register. It seemed like we had a lot of questions or confusion about our fee structure, so we're trying to simplify it. I'll go through that next couple of slides. We also would like to add a camp withdrawal fee of $20 per week. We looked at this for a while. This is something that's implemented at White Marsh Township. This is how they do it. Essentially what happens is parents will register early and quick to try and get in, and then all of a sudden change their weeks or withdrawal. And it's just a lot of administrative work for us to try and balance pulling off the wait list and all the other things. So we're looking at implementing a fee to make those adjustments in your weeks. We'll have to very much so advertise that that's the case.
So if they sign up for 4 weeks or whatever weeks it may be based on the new structure, and they still sign up for 4 weeks, but they swap them around.
Yeah,
so
$20 per week.
So if they pick 4 new weeks, they pay $80.
They would pay $80, yeah. If they only pick one new week, it'd be $20. So the flexible schedule looks a little bit like this. It's very simplified. So weekly, we would just charge a $225 fee. And for non-resident, we would charge a $260 fee per week. You could do any amount of weeks that you want instead of just 4, 6, or 8, which is what we had before. But if you do reach 6 weeks, you get a 5% discount. And then that discount gets a little bit more if you get over 8 weeks. Well, we only have 8 weeks of camp, but if you do a whole summer of camp, you get a 10% discount. And then we're keeping the sibling discount the same. So the original pack of slides I sent, there was a typo. It was supposed to be 5 and 10, and I think it was 10 and 15 in your original pack of slides. So just so you know, I did make that amendment to this. So what that looks like, as an example, a resident family with 2 children, 1 in tween, 1 in Camp LMT, just try to give you a complicated example. The total for the discounted child, so the one who gets the sibling discount, which would be $1,539, but the price without the sibling discount is $1,620. So it's just a little bit of an increase in the fee. And then child 2, who's doing tween camp, would be $250 a week, and that comes to $1,800. Total for the family is $3,339. You'll notice that the tween rate went up, and that is because their trips are much more expensive, and we're recognizing that the tween camp itself, we're not really covering their costs, and they're kind of being supplemented by Camp LMT. So we try to increase the cost to cover some of those expenses. So if you have any questions, so this is what the old fee structure looked like compared to the new. Wait, hold on. Oh, this was last year's fee structure. So if you see, we broke it out by week. It was only 4, 6, or 8 weeks. There was people who wanted add-on weeks and all these things, and it just didn't allow for flexibility. So we're looking to just make that adjustment. Does the board have any questions about that?
You go back to the proposed 2025.
Yeah.
Not on, you don't have them both on the same slide.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It was.
Well, is the 8-week camp this year more expensive, the same, less expensive than it was?
So it would end up being the 8-week people who sign up for 8-week get a discount of 10%. It'll cost a little more than last year, but they get a discount of 10%. Last year, what happened was they just got a lesser rate. So by applying the discount in our system, it just automatically calculates it, and it would just be a little easier on our end.
I guess this question is apples to apples. Is an 8-week fee this year proposed for 2025 higher, or
it's about $20 more in total for it.
With the discount or without?
With the discount.
So without a disc, and the discount, is that tied? Doesn't matter when they sign up, right? We didn't have any.
No, it doesn't matter when. It's just any time.
8-week. So an 8-week is like $20 higher than prior year.
Yeah.
And 6-week.
It's around the same.
Same $20 higher.
Yeah, around. It's just actually no, it's a little less. Yeah, and then
that was the only choices again last. What was the only the choice?
4, 6, or 8 weeks.
So if someone does a 4-week this year at $1,000, what does that compare to last year? Because it's 4. What's right? Sorry, 250 a week for. Oh, that's tween. So the tween 4-week is
the tween is going up a little bit. Yeah, it's
yeah, from 1,000, so 90. That's
yeah,
going
so
up.
Yeah,
no, 90. It's $90. 4-week tween. 9, 10. It's
it's $90 increase
9, 10,
4-week of tween. Yeah.
And then what's the camp one? Go back. Sorry, 4-week is 900 last year, and 225, right?
Yeah, it's about equal, I think.
That's 900. There's no change
For 4 weeks.
For 4 weeks. So why is?
We kind of use the 4-week as our base.
Yeah, but if someone's doing 6 or 8, why is theirs going up but not the 4 weeks?
They're going up, but they're still less than someone who's participating in a 4-week when you really just get down to the nitty gritty. They're paying $250 a week. They're getting the people that are in the 8-week program get a 10% discount on that $250. We were just trying to do it by percentages so we could put it into our system a little easier. This wasn't calculated. The original prices weren't calculated based on percentages. It's a leveling year. The leveling year.
Cost per week for 2025. Can't go back.
Well, so I think if you do 4 weeks, there's no discount.
There's no discount.
But if you do more than 4 weeks, you get a discount.
Right. I just want to see if the price per week is less expensive, right? Should be for 8 weeks or 6 weeks.
It is less expensive because you get a 10% discount.
Yeah.
It's not, but is it more than prior year for the 6 and 8 weeks?
For 6 and 8 weeks, it's just slightly more, just so that we could do an even percent.
Okay.
It's really the math of it. I mean, it is getting more expensive to run camp. However, this year, in order to make it simpler long run, to make it a percentage, otherwise we'd have to do like 2.5% or 3.7%. You know what I'm saying? So
last year we rounded up or down to hit like an even number, so we weren't doing 75s.
I remember.
Yeah. So the tween camp.
Yes.
Like I kind of remember that you'd struggled for participation in that.
Not this year. We had double of what we had the previous year this year.
So last year, 2024 was better than 2023.
Yeah. We had, I think it was 40 kids in tween. The year before, I think it was less than 20. So it's growing, and it's still newer. I mean, Camp LMT has been around since 2018. Tween, we just started. This is our 3rd year. So
you don't think that raising the rate on that, you think is it better programming this year? Well,
the programming is much more expensive. We do more expensive amusement parks. We try to take them places that are exciting for a tween to want to actually go to camp. We go, so it's just a little bit more expensive to run.
So it's going to be similar to last year in terms of the activities that they're doing.
Yes. We do a survey, a post survey, so the kids and parents can give feedback on trips or make recommendations. So we make a couple modifications based on that feedback, but the ones that they love, we keep, so yeah. We'll keep the ones that they love.
It's still a very, very affordable camp relative to other camps, even relative to other day camps in schools that are local. It's a really competitive pricing, even slightly increased.
You recall what the split was?
Or what?
Resident, non-resident?
No, I don't recall off the top of my head. Oh, you mean as percentage of participants for camp? Oh, it was somewhere between 90 and 95% resident for summer camp. And generally the non-residents were like a cousin of a resident or somehow knew a resident in some way. So that's kind of the trend for summer camp. So for that, I would, are you comfortable with making a recommendation to the board for summer camp fee?
Well, do we have to do all of them? Well, do we need to do all of them at one time? Because we didn't.
If you agree with all the fees.
On any of the other ones yet, so.
But there were no other fee recommendations.
We get to the pool yet or
no?
Oh, we did. No fee and change is a recommendation, right?
Okay, so you want to do them all once? I'm okay with whatever you.
Yeah, we'll do
all once. Okay, sounds good.
I have a question about the camp fees.
Sure.
So what other fees do people have to pay? Like when they go to somewhere, is that on top of that? Are the parents paying that separate? Is that included?
All the trips are included in summer camp. So everything is included. I think there were 1 or 2 trips where it was like a lunch optional. They could bring a couple extra dollars. And then sometimes we bring the ice cream truck. And if parents want to have their kids have ice cream, they'd have to pay for that. But other than that, everything is included.
Okay.
And they bring their own lunch. We do not provide lunch.
Okay.
right, on to pickleball. So you can see we're at 163%. Our revenue is 51,329. Now that also includes pickleball programming. So it's all inclusive programming and user fees. The expense was 31,472. That incorporated pool staff, supplies, some maintenance equipment that we ended up purchasing, some small maintenance that we did out there. The program manager is not incorporated in the expenses of 31,472 because he has, it's hard to determine what percentage of the program manager is covered by pickleball. Sometimes it's 75%, sometimes it's 20%, just depends on the day.
Your other staff.
But the staff, Bonnie,
in here.
yeah, she's in there.
And your expenses, since
and the other expense is paying the portion to the company who does the programming for pickleball. That's included in the expenses.
The revenue that we generated from those two, we ran one event or two events?
We've run two events, but several programs. To be honest, I don't know how many offhand classes and programs we've run. It was significant.
Okay, so we know off the top of the head if we
it's a 70
rate was
it's a 70-30 split, just like all other programs.
Oh, okay. So so if they do that pickleball palooza, it's
70-30 split.
Okay. That was separate. Okay.
Yeah. So what I recommend for the future is that we continue investing in infrastructure. You'll see that in our recommendations later on. I would not change much to this fee. The only thing that I would change is instead of having a fixed 6-month fee, to have a 6-month option that's flexible. So if you want to start in August or whenever you can, depends on when you're traveling. If you're a traveler that leaves in the winter, you can do during the summer, however you want to do it. Whenever you want to start your 6 months. I would just increase that from $60 to $65 because if someone's using the 6-month fee as a payment plan, every 6 months they're paying $60 or something like that, or just the abbreviation of this, like paying attention to the start and stop 60 months or 6 months, we are going to charge $65 from $60 because that covers the extra administration that takes. So that's all I have for pickleball. I think things did go very well this year. We were able to support people a lot better. Our new app is so much better. We're able to help. Having a staff that's able to respond to pickleball needs is very helpful. She works minimally, but she works when she needs to, and she's been doing a great job. And she's been making a huge impact. So she's been really trying to create a pickleball community. She started a new pickleball newsletter. They're trying to do pickleball outings. She's starting to do like pickup clinics with people. So she's been doing a lot more as we move along and really kind of get into this whole membership idea. So that's my only recommendation for this. If anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Yes.
I like the 6-month flexible idea, but I think, does it open up the potential for someone to say, hey, I'm going to be here for 4 months. I'm going somewhere for a month. Can I use my 2 months after I come back?
And we fix 6 months. Yeah. Fix, because we, to be honest, that'd be very hard for us to manage. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Are the fees up there? I mean, I can't see. What do you have somewhere what they pay?
It's 120 for residents, 120 for the year, and then it'd be 65 for a half year, and I believe it's 150 and half of 75 for. So that would have to go up to $5 also for the non-resident. So I would also recommend that the non-resident rate goes up $5.
How many people do you think would be using that? Be taking advantage of this 6-month anytime? It would be everybody, right? Would it be everybody?
Not necessarily. If they want to get the discount, the $10 discount, they get $120 for the year.
We have that 6-month option now, right?
Yeah, there is a 6-month option now, but it's fixed. It's
right.
We call it a snowbird option.
We know what percent off the top of your head?
No, I don't know off the top of my head.
Right now, that's what it's April through October, correct? So if somebody wants to do another time period, that's all.
But are there a lot of those people? So you have people who say, I'm going to do the 120, and you have people who say, I'm only going to do 6 months. Are there the people who only do 6 months? Like how many would say, I don't want to do the April through October. I want to do something.
I do have the stats on my computer. I just can't look at them right now. So.
Or go to Florida in the winter, so they
Yeah.
say I come back in March and I want to start in March versus April, so it gives them a little bit of flexibility.
What was the motivation for the change? Like, did somebody ask for the change, or like?
We just had people who wanted to start later who decided not to come because they're not going to be here during the time, you know what I'm saying? So it just adds a little flexibility. We also have a big dip then. If everybody that does the 6 month is all done at the same time, there's a dip in membership. So I think by adding the flexibility, it'd be more fluid.
And then the $5 does what?
It's just the administration. We have a little more administration with the 6 month, tracking the 6 months. It also allows the 1 year to be a little discounted.
So do they get locked out of being able to sign up for?
After the 6 months is over.
And before it starts?
Well, once they started, it starts.
But if they start in, March or April, they wouldn't be able
Once they pay, it would start.
And then that's a manual process for you guys to go in and turn it off?
It will happen automatically if they're on a 6 month membership.
So why wouldn't we just, not raise the fee?
We could not raise the fee, but then there's no true benefit of being an annual membership. And then also there is administration to us, reaching out to them, paying attention to it. If they join twice, then we have to reactivate their account. So if they decide to use it as a 6 month payment period, we have to go in and reactivate them in the system.
It isn't, but if the system is going to lock them out after their time is up.
Right.
Then.
So if they want to re-sign up, so say they are using it as a 6 month payment plan, that's administrative costs.
All right. Well, then, that they sign up again and it's, another $60.
That's fine. It's up to the board, however they want to do it. It was just increasing this $5.
I mean, you have another comment? You want to comment again on pickleball? State your name again for the court recorder that's not here.
To meet again. So the 65 versus 60, I understand the administrative issue. What happens is there's a lot of people like me. I sign up for the year. I live here. I'll play in the middle of winter. It's okay with me. A lot of people play outdoors. There are people that want to only play in the warm weather. So they sign up for 6 months. There are a few that said, okay, if I could get it for less or get a payment plan, I only pay 6 months. Then I sign up again, take the next 6 months. They're still paying for the year. The point is she has to go into the system and take it out of the system and put it back in the system. I get the $5. It's not a big deal. And it certainly doesn't affect the people who pay for a year. So I don't see a problem with that. Can I have one other question? The gentleman back here raised a point to me that I had raised earlier about marking tennis courts. You have those tennis courts by the pool and you have the lights on in there. It's probably the only place a guy like me could play at night. They're not marked. If you could mark them for pickleball as well, make dual use out of them, everybody would be happy. Yeah, I know the tennis players might be unhappy, but sometimes there's a lot of times that those courts are not fully used. But if the lights were on and people could play, it would be helpful. Sorry, thank you.
I don't understand the need for the $5 increase. I feel like, the system is going to, manage it, and that, $60, that covers the cost of registration. So if somebody wants to join for 6 months at a time, then they pay the registration fee, which is $60. That's my opinion.
We'll
Want me to talk about motion?
yeah, when we make a motion, we'll.
Okay. Okay, dog park. Cost recovery was 81%. We had, as I presented last week, we had a dip in membership this year, a significant dip. I'd like to ask for the year to really focus on trying to bring registration back, get members back. I feel like we can do a better job of marketing and communicating on the dog park. And if I could try for the next year to, rather than raise rates, get members back. But other than that, this is the long and short of the dog park. Does anybody have any questions about the dog park?
Any clue what's behind that drop?
Well, I think I'm going to start with a survey of the members to kind of get an idea of where we're at. I also think we need to work on, new pet owners, education, those who don't really know that the dog park is there. So I could tell you I haven't spent a lot of time on the dog park as much as I would like this year. So I think if I dedicate some time marketing, creating more of that dog park community that we had, but I was drawn away a little bit. So I'd like to focus on that next year.
Monica, I did my own little independent survey after our last meeting when you had said it had dropped off. And so I just started asking dog owners who I know used to be a member. And I think you're right. A lot of people have gone back to work that joined when they were working from home. That seems to be a big explanation. And then I had a couple people that mentioned that their dogs actually unfortunately passed away and they just, didn't get a new dog or didn't get a chance to cancel even, or but I think the back to work is a big factor.
And if I can add, I think, yes, you had people go back post-COVID, right? So their schedules changed and they might not be as flexible as they were. And I think you also had significant uptick in dog ownership, right? So everybody got their COVID dogs. I'm one of them. And so your membership probably went up, probably exponentially due to that. And so there might be just, not that people don't get new dogs all the time, but I think the number of probably dog owners, maybe have plateaued a little bit, or now the increase isn't as the same. So I think that might answer your question a little bit in terms of, the numbers, but that doesn't mean we can't continue to go market it and try to, you always have to replenish. It's just like any other membership, a gym or something, right? People stop going, their habits change, and then you still have to go out and market it. So
I heard it was all because of Doug's dog.
Which is very possible. If I don't bring him in the afternoon, so I'm not chasing away anybody in the afternoon, but in the morning, he kind of runs the roost at the park. So if you come at 7 a.m., you just have to deal with my dog. So.
Remind me, did the fees remain constant between 2023 and 2024?
They did. They didn't go up until this current year. So
yeah, we just raised some.
Nothing had changed up until 2024.
We raised everything last year. Yeah. Yeah.
It was $35. That was the cost annually. So for one, and then it was up to 2 dogs.
Mm-hmm.
If you have more than 2, there's no fee for that third dog?
It's like 15. I'm sorry, I don't have that fee in front of me. I should have it in front of me. I think it's like $15 extra per dog or something like that. $35 and 15 extra, something like that. I can look it up again.
So it's 35 for
45.
It's 45.
And we did an assessment of neighboring dog parks. It's right with all the other dog parks in the area.
And does the county have a dog park?
They have Core Creek Dog Park, yeah.
And
their prices are right around ours.
They're 45.
Mm-hmm. And Doylestown is, I think they might be higher than us.
And we think it's still the plus 15 for the second dog.
I have to look it back up. I'm not in the dog park stuff every day.
Okay.
I apologize.
So no change for
no
this
change.
year.
Yeah, I wasn't recommending a change. Yeah. Yeah. As far as the pool, Now, I really want to focus on, this is what happened this year, 103% cost recovery for this year. So we did a good job with the fee structure. Our starting cash balance was negative 211,797. So that didn't help us, right? What I plan to do is transfer $200,000 from the Park and Rec fund over to the pool fund so we can cover the surplus. Then next year we'll start to be in better position. Does that make sense to everybody?
Is that
So we, as part of the expenses this year, I remember there was the large amount for one of the filters.
Yeah, so that came, I believe that came out of our fee and lieu money.
Okay.
Didn't come out of the pool fund.
And how much was that again?
It was around 160,000.
And just to clarify, like that was a expenditure that had gotten to its life expectancy of 20.
Way further
days
than
or
its
whatever.
life expectancy, yeah.
I know when we did the tour of the facilities, there was some discussion about the slides and where their life expectancy is. Is that going to be an expenditure that would need to be coming out of the general budget then, or is the hope that the revenue will encompass an expense like that?
So I was able to connect with Safe Slides, who did the work that we were less than happy with. And Safe Slide has agreed to come out and do fix all of the work that they did. And plus, well, they'll do our maintenance, we'll have to pay for the general maintenance, which is very low cost. We're going to try and do that for a year. But we will have to start thinking about that slide, either if we're going to replace it or what we're going to do, those three options that we have. So we'll have to take a look at that.
So just for clarification, the expenses that are here, the 1.1 million, are your operating expenses? And did it, obviously it didn't include the filter, but was there any other capital improvements or repairs, or this is the expenses, revenue,
Well,
or
it
just
does include the annual painting. So we did painting and sandblasting that was outside the normal.
it, or did not include?
We did do it, yeah.
No, I mean, does that include?
That was in these expenses, but
Okay.
we also have some sandblasting to do next year. That's around the same price. So
Just basic general, but nothing like significant, as Rob had mentioned, in
Yep.
terms of like replacement of any structures or equipment, right?
well, there's a lot that we have to do at the pool over time, but nothing that's going to stop it from operating next year, other than next year we do have one more filter to replace, as we discussed before. We have one more filter. We're looking to replace one or maybe two filter heaters, which we're not
Is
sure.
your mic on, or?
Just far away from it.
Okay.
All right. We are looking to replace one, if not two filters, if we can make that work for next year. I'm not filters, heaters, but we will have to replace all of the heaters, and they aren't terribly expensive. I think we allocated $20,000 this year for heater replacement.
In this expense, or separate in your?
That will be in a fee and lieu expense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Monica, how should we look at this? The $32,000 surplus in 2024. Did that surplus come after considering that negative starting cash balance?
Oh, this is how you should look at this. Pretend we started at zero at the beginning of the year. If we started at zero,
you had a $32,000.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're still 200 grand. Like you're still. That's
About
what you want to move the
200
money
grand.
for.
That's why I want to
Now
move the
got it.
money over. Yeah. Yep. For next year. Yep. Are we there? We're there.
so the $200,000 that you're going to transfer over is going to come from
Park and Rec Fund.
millage?
Yes. And then, so my fee recommendation for next year, I think we had to increase our fee so much last year because we hadn't been supplementally increasing in small doses. So had we been increasing by 2 or 3% every single year, we wouldn't have had to have a significant increase like we did. So because, you know, our costs are growing, our amount of staffing isn't growing, but the cost of staffing is growing. So what I'm looking to do is just every year recommend 1, 2, or 3% increase to cover our expanding inflation costs. So next year is a simple 2% across the board. I was going to recommend that we keep it at 2% instead of rounding, because then we're getting all over the place. But as far as that, and it's not a clean 2%, then we're looking at more. But here's my recommendation for next year. So you're looking at, $2, this is rounded to the dollar. But it's a small raise, but if we do small raises every year, then we'll get out of a position where we have to do mass increases. Another thing that, and this came from Mike Brody, I can't take credit, but Mike and I had a really nice conversation about really trying to think outside of the box about other ways to make money at the pool. So maybe that's something that we have to have a meeting that we're focused on this, but or start thinking about it outside, but what we can do in the off season with that space, what we can do, because we're maxed out. We have weeks where we're open, I think 97 hours a week during the mass of the summer. We're open very long days from as early as 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. We're constantly operating. So it's hard to have some flexibility within our current structure, but maybe we need to start thinking outside the box of where we can start drawing in revenue outside of the season, or other ways we can be able to use the facility, that we can start making some money outside of the standard season. Our pool is one of the few pools opened as many hours as we are in a day. So there's that piece of it too. So you have to recognize that we are open later than most other pools. We're operating longer than most other pools. We have a lot more programs than other pools.
We have more guards than other pools.
Well, we have to, yeah, because we have more pools than other pools. We also have amenities like diving board and slide, which require more guards in the rotation. So, we definitely, in this area, for our size of pool is much larger than what you see at, Falls Township or anything. So we are maxing out our time. So I think what we need to start looking at, and I think Mike Brody hit the nail on the head when he was saying we really need to start thinking outside the box. We're stuck thinking during the 14 weeks we're open, but what else can we do operationally? Sorry, Mike. I don't know if that's a good or a bad shout out, but I thought it was a good idea.
Recommendation. Monica, sorry.
Go ahead.
The annual increase you're talking about, is the intention to kind of just keep up with inflation?
Yes.
And then beyond that, though, I think we were challenged by the supervisors to kind of find ways to, when we do something with an asset, to make sure we have money to maintain it downstream. So is this enough of an increase to start to build a capital, little extra capital to do the maintenance that we might need, like with the slide?
We have the slide. We need bathrooms replaced. We need a lot of updating in that pool. So no, it's not enough of an increase, but I also don't want to get to a point where people just aren't signing up because it's so cost prohibitive. So I think we're kind of at that, we're nearing that point where we're nearing the point where we're so cost prohibitive that people aren't signing up for the pool. So I just don't want to. I
guess that's my question, because
yeah.
The pool offers a lot of opportunities for maintenance expenses. We've seen that over the last 4 or 5 years since I've been on the board. It's been, a filter here for $200,000, a slide here for X amount. And although I'm encouraged that we're at least almost equal with the expenses, it's not keeping up with the maintenance. And so there's got to be either an investment by the supervisors for a $200,000 or so a year for maintenance in the pool, or I believe we would need to increase the things to make it a break even, because if what Dennis is saying, it's, 2% is just going to keep up with inflation, cost of our lifeguards going up, different things like that. It's not going to encompass the maintenance that's there and continues to be there.
And I don't disagree. I just don't know if the burden of all of the required upgrades or some things that need to be replaced should be placed on the current and future. Like no one in the past has paid. Like, so there's got to be some, it is a township asset, right? So is all the burden to be put on the members? Because to everybody's point, like the membership fees would be.
Well, I guess that's the direction we should get from our supervisor, because
right.
If they're asking us like they did last year to, try and address the user fees and that to be able to keep the township assets where they're at, then without any further direction, in my mind, we're not doing that because we're just breaking even barely with expenses and not equating any maintenance. So if the supervisors want that as their edict to us, then we have to figure out something different because this isn't going to do it.
I think there's some maintenance in here, but when you're talking about significant,
yeah, I mean, well,
like if you have to get
each one of the filters are supposed to be like a 20-year lifetime, I think is a lot of the things that you point out to us, the slides, the different things. They have a 20-year lifetime, almost like a roof on a house or whatever. And if we're not encompassing that into our budget every year, then we're going to be behind the 8 ball. Whether it's 3 years, 5 years down the road, it's going to be the same thing.
So I get the impression from the board that, I'm speaking based on just my experience. I don't have a board member on call right now, but I get the impression that they're expecting us to be able to come up with a solution. That's where some of that outside the box thinking too, in addition to I'm giving Mike a lot of kudos right now. Outside the box kind of thinking. Outside of the 14 weeks we're open, what are some of the things that we might be able to do to try and generate revenue?
So I think if this budget goes in the way it's being presented, if we're going to look at it tonight, I would just say, let's make it abundantly clear to the supervisors that it doesn't factor in money to build a capital budget for the significant expenses like slide replacement or new pumps or, those significant expenses, because that seems to be what the kind of the challenge to us had been. And
yes.
If they're sensitive to the township folks that we're at breaking point on the membership fee, then we're not magicians.
Thought you were.
And just be clear, that 2% does not apply to, it only applies to membership fees, not necessarily. Now, today she doesn't have any fees related to, I don't think you were planning on raising
recommending
any other changes. That doesn't mean down the road that might happen, but like swim lessons and guest passes, all of that would remain the same. This is just general membership fees. Okay.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, so this is where we have to prioritize a little bit. I think everything is important, but I'd like to bring it to you to kind of, so I sent you a little bit of background on each one of these. And I'm not here today to give you a presentation on each different type of technology upgrade. However, and these aren't in my priority order. If I were to say, one of the more important things to me is payroll and timekeeping system, which would be the exact payroll. I feel this summer, I had an opportunity while it was stressful at the pool. I did get to see some of the operational challenges we have at the pool, and one of them is payroll. So for example, we use hand time cards that you all used when you were young, and we use paper time cards. Some of the kids forget to clock in, they forget to clock out. There's things handwritten all over them. It is, I would say it took between us and finance about 20 hours of processing every payroll, just try to get through all 140 time cards. It was a lot of time. I had, Samia work through the first phase of it. Then I'd go through some of the complicated ones. Then I had finance going through, and double checking on my work. Everything was done by hand. It was kind of ridiculous. This payroll, and I guess I didn't realize how tedious that was until I was in it trying to do payroll. So this payroll system in particular is through our current payroll system. It's timekeeping and scheduling and everything. And essentially what we do is we put the schedule in for the staff. When they get to work, they'd have an app on their phone. If they don't have a phone, we'd have an iPad in the office. When they arrive, it'll give them alert, like they can clock in. They cannot clock in early before their shift. They can't, clock out, after their shift. It gives them an alert that they're almost done their shift. Like it does all the things. I think there's going to be a huge cost savings because of this, because I am certain that there were errors just because of all the manual calculation that we did. And we tried our very best to do our best job. And I'm sure that's what happens every summer. But this is something I think will help us save a significant amount of money in this next year.
In that system, is that specific to Park and Recs, or like what does
we're only going to be using this for the pool the first year that we use it. We could eventually use it for summer camp too, but yeah, it would be specific.
But I meant like other departments, like the police department, your maintenance staff or whatever. How is that?
They already have good systems in place that operate well. It was not manageable at the pool. I have only a couple full-time year-round staff. They give me their time cards. They're adults.
But the $7,000 expense, is that a whole separate system than what the whole township's doing?
Yes.
We can't like piggyback on what we're already having as a township for all our other.
That's just paper, and hand cards is what we use for our full-time staff. But it's just that simple because there's so few staff. And they're adults who are used to time cards and giving you your.
But I guess like if we're going to do that expense as a township, would it make sense, even though they are adults, whatever, it would be easier for them as well? Like,
well, this is for our number of staff. So if we add staff, this price goes up.
Let me ask you, why wouldn't we not include the camp people on this?
I mean, we could.
I mean, how many staff do you have?
34.
I mean,
Monica, is there anything that's unique about this software that's kind of tailored towards pools and lifeguards and that, or is it really just a generic system?
It's fairly simple. It's geofence area around the pool. It's not tailored to pool. We did use a software before. So, we spent a few $1,000s a year on another software for scheduling before. And to be honest, it was very difficult and heavy and clunky for the kids to use, to switch shifts and all these things.
It
wasn't
like
payroll though. That was only scheduling. They don't do payroll.
It sounds crazy to still be using paper. So I would support getting into the digital world somehow to, clean it up a little bit, make it more accurate and easier.
I mean, I'd be glad to keep camp, but I think we have to start in phases,
What do our neighbors do? Neighboring towns, they have other software. How did you find out about this one?
Well, this is our payroll company, is Exact Payroll. So they just have other software. Yeah.
So I would assume it would pay for itself. That probably $7,000. You tell me how much time you spend each week, multiply that times whatever your, what your time is money is probably.
And I also think we have kids clocking in early and clocking in late, and that's just untracked time right now. So I just feel like this is.
I would recommend you adding your camp. Like, why have two different payroll systems? Like, if you can put them all in one, then they're all one. I don't know
I would just have to see how much for each geofenced area, like if the price goes,
Well, you would have what, just two, right?
we'd have
Pool.
3.
What's the third look?
Edgewood.
Do they go directly there or they come to the community
They
center
go
first?
directly to Edgewood.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Maybe Edgewood is part of the pool, it's just a bigger geofence.
Well, if I do a bigger geofence, the pool kids can clock in early at wherever they are. And
So just on that, you mentioned something about they can't stay later. So is there if somebody at the pool needs to ask them, what's that? Yeah, to stay later or not clock out?
Oh, they could get manager permission. So,
Okay, so just
there's
someone
ways
there
to
has to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
So the camp isn't a time card situation.
It is a time card. It's just simpler because they're all coming in and leaving at the same time. Whereas the pool is like so
all
many
over the
different
place.
shifts.
Yeah.
And it's,
Saturdays,
and then you have
Sundays.
kids that are like, I can't work 6 hours. I can only work 3 hours, and they get another kid to cover them for their other 3 hours. It just, it gets very.
I think the 7,000 is well worth it.
I think so too. So that would be my number one, 100%. The other one I wanted to talk about is our security system, which is our camera system. We have a lot of very outdated cameras. Some of them are still in black and white. Some of them are analog. Some of them are digital. It's very mixed, meshed. I just want to start in small doses, fixing our cameras, but the worst ones we have are at the pool and Kids Kingdom. So I would like to start there. We would in this get some more cameras and be able to reach some more locations. I believe it's like 5 more cameras than what we currently have. So this would be the initial investment. Now, we might not have to pay this $23,000 upfront. What I'm looking into is a leasing opportunity. We can lease them out, and then every 3 or 4 years, we can get new cameras to continually update our technology. That way we don't get into a place where we have like 25-year-old cameras. We're always up to date with technology. We can be paying on a regular basis, and this would just be an annual cost that we pay. Each year I'm looking into that. So this $23,000 upfront, if we were just to invest and buy the cameras, that's how much this is.
As the police probably provided a list of all the locations we should have cameras in, or have you made a list? So that 5 or
so we'd be covering all the same locations. I have been communicating to the police, but we'd be all the same locations. There's just some blind spot areas that we'll be capturing in the new layout.
So
which
are there locations that so if you went to leasing, it wouldn't be anything additional in the first year, or is it, so it would just be existing facilities and any blind spots at those existing facilities versus adding other locations that are not currently covered?
That would include those couple of locations that aren't currently covered. The leasing still.
You're describing these like they're on your wish list. Are these not in the budget for this year?
They are in the budget, all 4 of them. I was asked by the board to prioritize technology and some of the projects. If it comes back to me, then I have to be able to prioritize. So then the other 2, registration software is something that we all know that we need updated registration software, as we've discussed in our meetings. Civic Rec, we've also talked as the township as to start working towards a single sign-on. So as a resident, you need about 5 or 6 different passwords to get into varying different systems, whether you're going to do a permit or, like anything, report a problem, sign on to our website, community path. We have like all these different systems. So Civic Plus is a company that does all of those things in one umbrella. I've been needing new software for some time, and I've been looking at Civic Rec as an option, but they're the only company that does like single kind of sign-in, covers everything that we would need. The cost is a lot more than what we spend now, but it's one of those, you get what you pay for. One of the big things, the most exciting things for Civic Rec for me is the opportunity for registrants to scan in their own paperwork and send it right to the system. So what happens now is residents come in and drop all their paperwork. Say there's 7 different documents to sign up for the pool. They have to drop that all off. Kathy has to go back into the system, look up the family, check off that all the documents are there in order to release their pool membership, then give them their card, and then someone has to file it. Usually it takes a little while until everything gets filed for the pool because we get so much registration. Same thing for summer camp. There's about 9 different forms that for summer camp that parents have to fill out, like EpiPen and allergy forms and all of those things. For summer camp, they'd be able to upload it into the system. All Kathy has to do is go in and make sure they're all uploaded, you know what I mean? Rather than that. So that's a small piece that makes a huge difference. You know, we also will be able to, you know, how we do mass emails for the township, we'd be able to do it just right through Civic Rec. And all of our stuff, all of our communication would all come through them. So
is this an annual expense?
It is reduced a little bit for the annual, and you have the contract, and hold on, I'll be able to pull the contract.
It is an annual expense, and it increases 5% each year.
Yeah.
So after 10 years, it's over $400,000 over the course of.
And then
Monica,
it'd be split between pool and park and rec because half of the use would be pool. So what I do have to tell you is our current registration software has 23,000 people in the system. If we switch, one of the decisions we'd have to make is, are we going to try and transport all those 23,000 into the new system, or are we going to have to start from scratch? So, you know, there's a lot. I wouldn't recommend if we do this next year that we start right away, that we wait until October or November of next year, just because it takes at least 3 months to transition to the new software. And then we'd be in the heat of pool season. I just can't imagine starting like new software as we're doing pool registration. So I would wait until after.
Do you pay anything now for the current software?
Yeah, we do. It's about $13,000.
So the increase is really not 39, it's 26,000, right? It's incremental.
Yeah, the
26.
amount is 30. Yeah, the total amount is 39,000, but it's not.
But it's an incremental 26.
Yeah.
So
Monica,
that might be a good call out for the board, that it's the expense, but it's not incremental 40.
in the current software, you mentioned the township for like permits, all that stuff. Is that on the same software program?
Everything's on different software programs.
And
So we would be the first to start with this. So it's Civic Plus is the name of the company. And then there's module Civic Rec. If we start moving towards this, Park and Rec would be the pioneer. We'd be the first to start moving over.
and if other aspects of it were moved over, how does that affect the 39,000 then?
Park and Rec.
But I mean, will other departments then get a discount because we've already signed the contract, or?
It's kind of different. The modules are priced differently. So this will always be Park and Rec.
I get that, but I mean, like, so we're the initial ones signing up for it. But then the permit department, you know, they get it less because we're already a customer.
Now yeah, and they did give us a discount, understanding that if you look at the quote, it says discount.
Right.
Understanding that we're looking to do this for the township at the time.
Okay. Just kind of that same argument where we're already paying for it, you know, 13,000. So when the board of, you know, the supervisors looking at it say, all right, it's 26, but then it's also, we're starting out the process here, and it might be helpful for the township as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They are aware. They've actually kind of put the charge out for us to try and find single sign-on software.
To Park and Rec, they put
no, just out to the township. So
to staff, they
put it out to staff, and then we have the technology advisory board that's been reviewing this. So they did a review of this first. So they are making a formal recommendation to start moving to Civic Plus. No.
does it handle the the guest fees.
It handles everything.
So I can, from my house, do a guest pass to the pool and then go to the pool and walk right in with my guest pass.
No, because it's just a little different for guest passes. Point of sale is always, this has point of sale, but point of sale is separate. It's like a register system. So you wouldn't be able to buy a guest pass at home and then come later with a guest pass. It just, point of sale is separate than the overall registration.
So for a pool guest, you have to, pay the fee. You have to have a member with you. You have to sign a waiver.
It might be a little cleaner in the new system. I know what you mean. Like it backs up the line and all that.
Yeah, it does. And so other facilities, like I would take my kids to the trampoline park, and this was years ago, and you'd sign up online at the house, and then everything was done, and you just walked in and you had your paperwork.
I dream of a day that software like that is created for parks and recreation. So what you're looking at there is you have a company that has a very special single service that they offer, and that's it. And they have technology design specifically just for that. And when you're looking at park and recreation software or government level software, you're looking at one software company that's trying to do many different services across the board. So you're not going to get that.
Well, having that, speed of service for our customers, our members, is something that we should try to address. And also there's like 100 different reports they say, but I don't know what any of them are. Are there reports that are going to help you manage the pool better?
The reports are far superior compared to what I could do now with Community Pass.
But
these are registration. About who's registered.
Not necessarily pool management like that, right? It's a registration single sign-on.
Yeah, I mean, what it'll do is give us information about who's using our facilities, how many people are using our facilities, so we can make better decisions about how we're operating.
When they're there, how long they're there.
Well, not necessarily how long, because we don't have people check out.
Well, maybe we should do that. Have them just scan out.
Scan out, and we could look at that. And then the fourth thing, I know several times we talk on a very regular basis about who's using passive parks. And it's hard to make decisions about passive parks, particularly like tennis courts, right? It's hard for us to know how many people are on the tennis courts or how many people are using our walking paths or how many people are at Memorial Park on a regular day. And we have people who will come to meetings and say, no one is using the parks ever, right? When I drive around during the day. And so what this software, it's an AI software with data collection, can do that we don't have access to now is collect that information. It's using cell phone data. It's very private. You can see what the report looks like. We did a sample report of Makefield Park that kind of shows you what kind of information you could get. It could help us with sponsorship. We could go out and say, we noticed that 95% of our people go to Wawa before practice. Wawa should sponsor, there's a great return on investment in your sponsorship here at, Makefield Park. We can look at community day participation and see historically, I think up to 7 years back, how many people were coming to community day and how many of those people were residents. We could look at what those people are interested in and get an idea of what type of things we should focus on for the future of Community Day. We can look at all kinds of events and do that. So that's that kind of information. So if you guys have any questions about any of those, I'd be glad to.
I mean, there could be 6 different opinions on rankings, so I don't know if we all want to, I don't know if we want to vote on the rankings or we just everybody reply back and give your opinion.
Yeah, I would
That's
trust,
fine.
I would trust Monica's judgment, but I could say, if judging by your reaction here, you're way more excited about that registration software than you were the security system.
Well, there's benefits. Yeah, I mean, again, you can rank them, but I think your payroll, timekeeping, your registration is where your pain points are, where you're spending more time, and where the cost benefit is higher in terms of return. I don't disagree. Security is important, and we need to have the right. But if you're telling me the expense can be leased, that might be a minimal.
Yeah, minimal.
Right? So, because if they're asking you to rank it, which is a cost issue, then you're going to rank it, I think, where you have the best return on your spend. So.
Okay. All right, so this is pretty straightforward. Our equipment is old. I don't think there's much ranking that we can do because we have one truck that's already offline, and we have another truck that's just about to be offline. And then we have a backhoe loader. These would all be a lease expense. The total expense for next year would be $73,200. This is a 5-year lease. And then we're also looking at trying, now I did this with Derek, and Derek is on the line here if you have any questions for him. So I've been trying to work better with Public Works so we can better collaborate in the use of our equipment. So, and of course, he knows a lot more about this type of equipment than I do. So us working together truly makes sense. So this would be the first year. The goal is to try and continue to improve our equipment with time so that we're in a position where when we turn them in, we're not getting zero value for them, right? So we want to be able to turn them in and get a little value for them when we're, and get replacements regularly. So we're not in a position where we're a truck down, which is where we are now.
So the ones on your list here, are they owned or are those leased?
The current ones we have are leased. The new ones, are owned, and they're very old. The new ones would be leased.
Right. Okay. So if you go into a lease program, you'll have that
constant
turnover every,
flow.
yeah.
We don't have a current line item expense for lease currently.
We do. We do have a lease line item expense, but we're not really using it. So we would be using it.
So it's not incremental, technically.
It will be.
Technically, it's in the budget, but it's not.
Yeah.
We're not.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody have any questions about that? And then we've discussed, it's Derek's texting me. He says lease purchase is what the plan would be. We would own after 5 years. Derek, are you allowed to come on? And we have a why question.
Sure. Don't worry.
Thanks, Derek.
No worries.
Yeah, if you could just explain why.
No,
why
just like we. Yeah, no. I mean, we do all heavy equipment that way. When you need funding wise, it would just be a lease purchase. So it's basically financing it, over 5 years. So the banks typically for heavy equipment for the government, they'll do a lease purchase option. We do it for the large dump trucks that are $200-some-thousand. Just a loan. You're taking basically a 5-year loan out, and at the end of the loan, it's $0 or sometimes it's $1, and you buy it from the bank. It's just a way to. Monica needs so much equipment that you could see probably to buy them all this year or 2025, she would need close to $225,000. So basically, we're just financing them more or less over 5 years. It doesn't. There are options to straight up lease the equipment. The problem is and hand it back in 5 years. The problem is you don't make out when you do a lot of upfitting to the trucks. So if you put a utility body on it or a plow, you don't get that money back in a 5-year traditional hand back like they can on the cop cars. So it would be recommended to do a lease purchase option.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. Any more questions on that before we move on? Okay, capital projects. So we have the $900,000 grant. This one's a given. We have to work on it because if we don't, we're going to run out of grant time. 2026 is when the grant is up. It's a bigger project. We're looking at amending the scope, which I plan to bring back to the park board soon, first I have to get some approvals from the grantors, not just this current grantor, but the previous grantor. So that's taking a little bit of time. There's all these other projects here I think are very important. We need to start working on them. I'll go through them, you guys know them all. Does anybody have any questions about? The only thing that I want to mention is in the board meeting, it came up that Cardinal Court is old and hasn't had a full rehab ever. And it is true. The fence is falling apart. The courts are cracked terribly. Originally we were proposing only $70,000 to fix the cracks, but I think it needs a full rehab. So what we're going to get a new updated price to put into the budget to do a full upgrade to Cardinal, which might mean that Revere has to wait another year for some of that crack repair. So that's how I would handle it. Right now, this is how the budget sits, $70,000 for Cardinal. I think we're going to need a lot more for Cardinal. But if anybody has any questions, Kids Kingdom, I want to mention, I listened to what you had to say, and there was a lot of concern and confusion, and I just didn't think we were ready to be there. I'd like to focus next year primarily on bringing an engineer to do the whole community process. Kids Kingdom is a very sentimental project here in this township. I think we really need to reach out to the community and decide how we're going to move forward with Kids Kingdom first, and then talk about maybe a capital campaign or however we're going to fundraise or grant right for that. So I have Kids Kingdom design a capital campaign. It is my intention to start with Kids Kingdom design. And then as a community process, including the community, there's a lot of communities that have done this very well. For instance, Warrington, we talk a lot about Warrington and their fundraising. They went into the school districts and they had kids draw what their favorite equipment would be. And then the kids voted on what they wanted to be included. And the engineers worked with the kids, and the kids were part of that whole process. Now, those kids that worked on it were much older by the time the playground came to fruition, but they really felt involved in the community. I'd love to do something similar here, where we're engaging the school district and you know, some of the residents who are involved in the original project, and really make it a grassroots kind of thing. So that's really all I have to say. I think everything else is pretty cut and dry. If you guys have any questions.
So what would Cardinal be if we redid the whole thing? Would it just be tennis, or would it be tennis lined for pickleball as well?
Well, it'll be tennis lined for pickleball as well.
So like a like for like replacement.
Now the players did ask to adjust the direction of the court. Like right now, the way the sun comes in, it's in the players' eyes. I did have a request for some of the players that if we were to redo it, would we adjust the direction of the courts? I see no issue in that, but we can discuss that further. Right now, we're just putting the money aside to do the project, and then we'll go through some of the details as we move forward.
I also didn't see the one really bad pickleball court at Memorial. What's going on with that?
Well, we're kind of in limbo right now for that project, but it's always on our minds. So we'll be working through that.
I think it's kind of important with the Memorial Park expansion with that grant still out there, because again, as Monica has always reminded me, is that grant's out there. So if we don't leverage it and utilize it, like it impacts us in terms of down the road being able to get additional grants, because they're going to see you didn't use the one that we were given. So I think it's just important from a priority standpoint that we figure out how to get that done.
Don't disagree.
Right.
The Kids Kingdom and capital campaign, 120. Can you just go over what is the capital? Like, are we paying somebody $100,000 just to tell us how to do it?
No, what I just said, we're focusing on design. So we'd be paying an engineer to work on the design. Now, if there's money to start thinking about a capital campaign, maybe we'll do that. But right now, the focus is engineering.
So the 120 is not to hire somebody to tell us how to fundraise?
No, I mean, it's $120 I put aside design first, and then we'll talk about how we're going to go more forward with funding.
I think it's important to see what what the end product's gonna look like, because then you'll know what the cost is, and then
Mhm.
we'll
And it'll
decide,
be easier to
like,
decide.
whether you need, $1 million, $2 million, or whatever the price tag is, and then you'll decide
Well,
whether or not, like, we're gonna need help raising that money, right?
like last meeting, Monica said it was $2 to $2.5 million to redo Kids Kingdom, and that we wanted to bring in someone that we'd have to pay 100 or 120 to tell us how to fundraise, to walk us to a program to raise that much money. And that I have an issue with that.
Well, I regrouped because of your issue and your concern. And I do really think it's important to run a capital campaign properly. And I do think that we should consider it as an option. And I'd love to look into it more. And I don't want to take it off the table totally, but the focus next year, it has to be, we have to start somewhere. We start on Kids Kingdom, get moving. And because that caused so much concern, I really think that we need to figure out our design piece first.
So I would remove "and capital campaign" from your,
I can do that.
just the text, because it says both. So if it's only one, then
Mhm.
let's just leave it as one. And change Cardinal Court crack repair to total whatever the resurface.
Sure. Mhm. So priority wise, which is hard, right? But some of these things, the intermediate heater has to be replaced. We're in bad position. If we don't replace it, we could, face not having
Right.
It's actually not supposed to be the heater. I'm sorry. That's the filter. Pool intermediate filter replacement. We have to do that. The pool heaters are starting to fail. So we need to replace that if we want to continue to have a heater at the pool.
So the second one is not heater, it's filter.
It's filter, pool intermediate.
And is that a before the pool opens expense, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It'd be as soon as the budget passes, we'll be going out for the heater.
And what's trail maintenance? Just give us a sense of, is that multiple places, or is there specific?
So there are a number of high priority spots. What we've been doing is working with Public Works a little better and coordinating and doing some things in-house. So we're going to see as much as we can get done within our crack plan, within our plan. We'll try and do with that $70,000. And I'll come to you with when we start to move forward.
Just give me one example of a trail. Is it the bike path that pass it around?
Yeah, the bike path.
Okay, so it's not a trail like in the woods trail.
Yeah, not 5 Mile Woods Trail. Now, I also did not see in here some of the smaller budget line items. There's, I don't ordinarily allocate $5,000 a year to 5 Mile Woods. I'm starting to do that so we can start maintaining some of those inner trails. I also, just this last week, two weeks ago, we applied kind of last minute for a grant, a Green Region grant, to kind of continue that trail, the ADA trail, a little further, and to work on some educational signage out at 5 Mile Woods. That's $10,000 that we're adding to the budget for that as a match. So it's a $10,000 grant app, $10,000 match. So you don't see that here, but I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned those couple of things. And another thing, because of the athletic user fees and the investment in the fields, I wanted to make sure we were transparent as to how much we're allocating towards field maintenance. So that won't include our staff costs, but I am making a line item for athletic field maintenance, and I'm also making a line item for pickleball expenses. So we have a pickleball revenue line item, but we don't have pickleball expenses. So I want to make sure that was clear on the budget. So that's something that's different. And then just, does anybody have anything on the capital project side that you want to discuss?
Is there a plan already for the Memorial Park expansion, or is that just TBD still?
There is the master plan that we've been working off of, recognizing some of the issues we faced with the first project. We're kind of looking at a regroup, but I have to first find out from our grantors if I can even bring that to you. So I'll let you know.
Is there any chance it could include additional pickleball courts?
Well, I don't know that.
And this is not the kids' playground at Memorial Park.
Which one?
The Memorial Park.
No. That's
like
the
that
east
resurfacing
side.
is happening now.
The resurfacing is it should be done in the next couple of weeks. So it's looking very good. I sent you guys a picture. I meant to add it to my slides, but I didn't.
So are you asking us again to rank these?
Yeah, I mean, what would be most important on this list? Now, I want to show you something else real quick before we rank. On the next page is a whole bunch of projects that aren't even budgeted this year that need to be done. So when you know the whole big picture of all the things that need to be done, right, and what we selected over here, I prioritizing them becomes difficult, right? So I try to pick the things that were most pressing this year. So is there any, if you have any comments, I'm glad to hear them. If you want to send that to me in an email, I'm glad to hear it. If you want to talk about it now, I'm glad to talk.
I think we should vote on the fee structure, get that out of the way. And then I guess in terms of time, if people just send, again, similar to the technology, just send them back. You're just rank them, put them in the order you want, and then Monica can send out a recap and just say based on feedback, and just include your comment. If there's comments to it, like if you have a reason, rationale why you want one before the other, include that. And
I'll send out an updated list, the heater mistake and all that. I'll fix that and I'll send you the updated list.
Yeah, if I remember what sorry, what's his name said about the Cardinal resurface, was it around 200 that he said in the board meeting?
I'm going to get a quote to be more accurate. I don't want to throw numbers out.
No. I'm just trying to remember offhand what is.
Yeah. Well, they do look great. Yeah, there's people on them every time I go out, so it's great.
So, does somebody want to make a motion regarding the? You have anything else, Monica? Is this the last?
No, this is a list.
Okay, if someone wants to make a motion regarding the fee structures for the Park and Rec 2025 budget.
I will make a motion that we submit the proposed Park and Rec budget as Monica presented tonight to the Board of Supervisors.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Rob seconds. Dennis made the motion. Do we have discussion from current board members on the motion? You're good with that as proposed?
I mean, it's just the $5. I mean,
okay. That's fine.
I don't know why we're doing that.
Okay. Anybody disagree? Agree? I think I agree with Mike. I don't think there's a need to add a $5 fee. I think the application is pretty self-sufficient, and you register. I use it. You go on there, you pay your annual fee, and when it's up, it's up. And when you need to re-register, you re-register. So, but that's only my opinion. So
I don't have a problem with the $5. I agree with the perspective that was offered from the audience today that it has to add some element of additional administration. It might be really insignificant, but when you have two things happening as opposed to one time for the year, it's just a little less efficient. So I don't have a problem with giving someone a discount to be more efficient.
I think it's
I
really
agree.
just.
I'm fine with the $5.
what's that?
So we're seconded already.
We are.
Right. Any public comment? Come on up. State your name.
My name's Scott Stebbins, 1337 Edgewood Road. Couple things. One, your technology costs for security. Knowing that the pool's only open so many weeks and other facilities have rolling attendance. And now you're talking about potentially redoing Kids Kingdom. Does that number change when you go into a new design? Well, I mean, what do you do with your security, I guess is my question. I know it probably goes to the police station. So my point is, should the police be picking that up? Would that help you with your budget? To the super?
Well, the trick is the general fund is in not as good a position as the Park and Rec fund. So while the police pick it up, I use it often. I'm also looking at the cameras often because while our pool is only open 14 weeks of the year, it has our most participants out of any other program, 6,500 last year, 7,500 the year before. So in that amount of time, the liability is very high for the township. So we are constantly, reviewing reports. We're taking a look at, so if there's a staff complaint or something, I'm always on the camera system. So I don't think it's just the police. I hear what you're saying. If we're able to do a lease expense, though, that would tamp down.
I was just trying to give you a place to go.
I appreciate your place, but I try to look at the overall picture.
Yeah, and because I understand it, and I'm sure you need it and use it in your day to day, but like the after hours when the kids are hanging out there, that's not you watching it. That's got to be the police.
Right.
And then if there's a major incident, the police are going to be involved, whether it's at the park or anywhere. So I was just trying to see if you're going to come in and redesign a lot of places. You're committing $20-some thousand to that? Mm-hmm. Is that a good place to put money right now if you're going to have to change it in a year or two? I don't know if you have that option. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I imagine we'd be able to just use the same cameras in different locations when we get a new park, but I could double check that with the company that we're looking at. But it's hard. It's a hard call because I know what I pay attention to all the township, right? Not just parks and recreation. And while I'd love to go back and say, I want to use the general fund for this, or I really need the police to pay for that, I know what position the township fund is in, close to reaching the cap of millage cap. For me to go and ask for something that I need in a park would be a little tougher and maybe not proper timing right now in our current situation. I wouldn't even feel comfortable, to be honest.
Logically, you would think security cameras in the township would fall under one general line item somewhere, but in this case, because it's allocated to park because they're in the parks, and so it's just more of a semantic thing. But more than happy to recommend you go to board of supervisors and say, hey, why is this in different budgets versus one line item? But that's just we don't have, but they're the ones that can make the decision, right?
I didn't know if there was a way to pass that on to them. They would use it maybe more than you.
Was that just for the pool, or was that for security?
Pool and kids and kingdom?
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I appreciate your feedback. I know. I appreciate it.
Any other comments? If none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the 2025 Park and Rec budget fees?
Aye.
Aye. All approved.
Okay. That's all I have for today.
All right.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to talk about programs. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I missed the slide and I don't want to forget it. So we have a bunch of new programs coming in. I just wanted to make sure I brought them. One of them you may have seen advertised. We are offering trips through an outside agency, outside company. There are lots of other townships that do this. Essentially what happens is we offer the trip and we get a percentage of the total sales. They offer all the education, all the support and all that stuff. And, it's kind of a fun add-on, similar to how we do ticket sales, right? But it's just higher price tag. So we have that. And then we have this whole list of things coming: chair yoga, sound bath, mommy me playground. So you guys can look at the list. One of the things that I'm particularly excited about is we have this company that we recently met with that is going to expand our outdoor classes. It's called Hiking Hounds. One thing that they may be able to help us with is embracing the river a little bit more than we have been historically. So maybe we can work with them to offer things like, kayak rentals or kayak guided tours, or they do some hiking classes. We plan on starting small, but one of the things that I'd love to see is really embracing the outdoors and getting people to enjoy the environment, something we don't offer now. So that's that. If anybody has any questions about programs.
Well, we look forward to hearing more as they you know, as you get them solidified, timing wise. But I think it's a great thing to balance things indoors and outdoors and seasonally appropriate. So.
Thank you. Very excited. All right. That's all I have. Now I'm really done. Sorry.
Oh.
Yes, sure.
One public comment.
Lori Gray, I am a township resident. Could you just go back one slide, please? I just wanted to take a snapshot of it if I could. Do you mind?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You got it, Lori.
All right. If no other business, we want to make a motion to adjourn. All right.
Second.
Motion and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.